Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Storytime with Father Growley. I'm Father Trace Browning from All Saints Church in Salt Lake City. So tonight we have a wonderful story. This comes from the Bible. It's about the prophet Elijah. So let's begin. This is found in the Bible, in the book of Kings, the first book of Kings. Now, Elijah was a prophet of God. He was a very righteous man. He listened to God. He did what God asked him to do. Now, in those days, there was a terrible drought. A drought is a time when there is no rain in the land at all. And because there's no rain, people couldn't grow the crops that they usually did. They didn't have sprinkling systems and things like that back then. So if there was no rain, the grass, the grains, the fruit on the trees, none of those things could grow after a while because it was just too dry. So Elijah is in this time of terrible drought. So the Lord says, I want you to go to this river Cherith. Cherith was the name of this river. So the Lord sent him to that river, and he was there on the banks of the river, but there was nothing to eat. So here's the amazing part. The Lord sent ravens to come to Elijah every morning and every evening, and they would bring Elijah bread. You know, these aren't actually ravens at all. And I don't think the birds in the story wore clothing or glasses. But they came to Elijah every morning. They would bring him bread. He would eat it. They'd come back in the evening. They would bring him more bread, and he would eat it. And for many, many days, that's how Elijah lived. The bread from the ravens, and he would go to the river and drink from it and have enough water. But as the drought went on, the river dried up. And with that, Elijah needed water. It wasn't enough just to have the visits from the birds anymore. So the Lord told Elijah, I want you to go to another town. It's called Zarephath. And there is a widow, and she will feed you. A widow was a woman whose husband had died, and this widow had one son, and it was just she and her son who lived in this house. So Elijah went out and made the long journey to Zarephath. When he got to the edge of town, Elijah saw a woman. It was this very widow that the Lord had mentioned, and she was out gathering sticks. I'll tell you why. She was out gathering sticks, and it was to build a fire. And she was walking around town. Remember, it was a time of drought, not much to eat, not much to drink, but she was out gathering sticks. And Elijah saw her, and he said, could you please bring me some water? She said, well, there isn't much, but I'll do that. And he said, oh, and please, could you bring me some bread? I haven't eaten for a long, long time. Could you please bring me some bread? And she said, I don't have any bread prepared. She said, all I have is just a little bit of grain in a bowl. I have a little jug of oil. In fact, I was out gathering sticks, she told Elijah, so I could make one last fire, so I could take the grain and oil, make one loaf of bread for me and my son, so we could eat it and die. That's how hungry she was and her son. She said, we're going to have our last meal of this bread, and that's all I've got. And Elijah said, well, here's what the Lord wants you to know. If you will be generous, if you will help me, if you give me bread, there will be enough for you and your son. In fact, as long as this drought lasts, as long as there is no rain, you will have enough for bread every day. So the woman believed him. So she took her sticks home with her, and she got out her cupboard, and she had one bowl of some grains, really just a handful, enough for one loaf of bread. And she had a little jug of oil, not much in there, but she lit a fire, and she mixed the oil and the grains, and she made some bread. And she went out and she took this little loaf of bread that she made, and it wasn't that big. She made this loaf for Elijah, and he ate it, and he was so thankful for that. And she went home And here's the miracle. She went home. There was still grain in the bowl that she had. There was still oil in the vase. So she made enough bread for she and her son. And the next day she did the same thing. She built a fire. There was still grain in the bowl. There was still oil in the vase. And she made bread again and again and again. And she and her son and Elijah had enough food during the entire drought. It went on for many days, but God provided for them. So it's a wonderful story. It's a story about trust, a story about believing what God tells us, and it's a story about being generous, even when we don't know if we will have enough. It's a story that says we will always have enough if we continue to have faith and continue to believe. And that is this evening's story. I hope you enjoyed it, and you too. Joining us for the song tonight are a couple of Father Growley's well-dressed bird friends. We're going to sing an old song called You Are My Sunshine. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. The other night, dear, as I lay sleeping, I dreamed I held you in my arms. When I awoke, dear, I was mistaken, and I bowed my head and I cried. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Please don't take my sunshine away. May the Lord enfold you with love and fill you with peace and lead you in hope this night and always. Good night, everyone, and may God bless.